We are live. Hey, everybody. I am Haley Gray, and I have got Victoria Bentley here with me tonight.
Hello.
And we are here. If you are catching us on the live, give us a hashtag live. If you're on the replay, give us a hashtag replay and let us know that you are here. We're excited.
We are. It's good to see you tonight.
It's good to see you, too. I mean, this is kind of one of my more chill Facebook Lives that I do during the week. And I really enjoy getting to spend this time and hanging out with everybody. And we come up with some doozies for topics at times.
We do. And I think today's a doozy.
I think it is. Yeah. Because
Hmm.
it's that, you know, what you're putting out to the universe, what you're putting out to God, what you're putting out there to the world, sometimes isn't really what we're thinking we're putting out there. And then we're not getting the results that we think we ought to be getting because what we're putting out there and the message we're sending is not really what we were trying to send.
Or, in another way to say it, is we haven't thought about it. We haven't been
Mm-hmm.
intentional. We've
Yeah.
just gone about our business not thinking and just doing,
Mm-hmm.
not planning. And not that you have to plan like tomorrow and Wednesday I'll have peanut butter and then on Thursday I'll have ham on rye. I don't mean it that way. I don't mean overanalyzing. But if you don't make decisions about what you want, certainly open to change, but if you don't make decisions about how you want to approach something and what you want and what it looks like, you're going to get what you get, and it might not be what you want.
Yeah.
And I think there's a whole big world of unintended consequences out there that people have said, oh, if I knew now, or if I knew then what I know now, if I had only thought about it, or if I had only planned
Mm-hmm.
better, you know,
Right.
everything from unwanted pregnancies to, gee, why did I pick that career anyway? Or why did I pick that spouse? Or,
Right.
you know, as a divorce lawyer, it's like, so why did you marry him? You would hear a myriad of answers that did not involve thinking. They
Mm,
involved emotion. And you say, well, of course it's emotion. You fall in love, you love somebody. That's part of it.
right.
But love is also action.
Mm-hmm.
Love is kind. Love is patient, as opposed to, but I love him. Well, what do you love about him? Well, I love what he could be, or I love what he used to be, or I know he has potential, or, and then you
Mm-hmm.
get this unintended mess in a bad relationship because you didn't say, what do I want? What am I willing to do to get that? What am I willing
Mm-hmm.
to become myself to help create the world I want instead of, relying on someone else?
Right. Yeah. And that to me is the tricky part because I see it a lot with businesses and careers, and especially in the online world. One of the harshest realities I see with people, and hey, Beth, good to see you, is
See, I'm
when,
moving and I'm over here and there's like no camera. I don't know how to fix this. Hey,
yeah,
Beth. There, we'll do it that way.
there you go. But it's that trying to have multiple messages and multiple things and trying to be all things to all people. And suddenly you end up being nothing to anybody.
Oh
Um,
boy, is that ever a profound statement, Haley?
mhm. Thank you.
Oh, and it's so true.
We're just trying to hustle to make a buck, right? We
Right.
just need to make money. So we joined 3 different MLM companies, and then we're doing some of this, we're doing some of that, and we're doing some of the other. And I mean, I've done it. And I mean, I
We
see
all
it.
have. We
Yeah,
all
we
have.
all have. I mean,
People get desperate,
yeah.
people like, oh my gosh, I'm out of money. I better quick do something.
Hmm.
And I can remember, and it's sort of a personal thing, but I was married very badly the first time, and
Mm,
I'm not speaking ill of him. I don't mean it that way. It's just it was the wrong thing for me. It was the
the
wrong thing
wrong
for
person at
him.
the wrong time, and
Yeah.
the
Yeah, and it was, what do I have to do to get out of this? And I
mm,
made a decision that if I was, I couldn't count on him anymore. And well, I never could, but I had always thought that he would step up and be the guy that I had in my head. And if I had my eyes open, I'd realize, wait a minute, he was never that guy. That was my dream. That was my projection onto him. And so, what was I willing to do to make my life better? And I went
Hmm.
back to college, and I had already had one degree, but it was not a job getting degree. I went back to college and became a registered nurse. And I can't change you, but I can change me. And it was very intentional, and it
Yeah.
served me well. Now, I'm not a nurse today, um, and I not
Yeah.
so.
You're not currently, a practicing nurse, but you
No,
had the education.
no, and it served me very well. It did what I needed it to do, and I was good at it, and I liked it, and it was also time to move on. And um, because I made a decision, and it was a very intentional decision, um, it worked out the way it did. And
Hmm.
because my previous degree was not an intentional decision, my parents were paying for college, and I wanted to do X, Y, and Z. And they said, oh, no, 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 that's not a real degree. You have to do A, B, and C.
Hmm.
And that was, a liberal arts degree that wasn't, that and a dime weren't going to even get me a cup of coffee. And so I had
Right.
to do something. I did not have a marketable skill.
Right.
And I was really mad at everybody else. And I had to become intentional. I didn't know what the word meant at that time. But finally making those choices, the consequences became better. And I think that's what you and I've been getting at. When
Yeah.
when you just throw crap at it, you're going to get crap out of it. And
Absolutely.
you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. It's got to be.
Yeah. And this is something that manifests itself and it comes to light in many different aspects of our lives and not just in um, our businesses. It is,
Yes.
it is everything from, refusing to choose a single audience for our messaging or, a single focus for our business, especially when we're just starting to,
Yeah, yeah. Well, think about the body of knowledge today. Like when our
mhm,
grandparents went to school,
right.
everything you needed to know in the world was in the World Book encyclopedias, you know?
Wasn't it though?
And today, you don't have the luxury of being a general practice attorney. I mean, I get it if you're in a small town and I get it. But there's too much knowledge. You can't know it all. You can't do it all well. So I became a family law attorney, divorce support, custody, a little bit of adoption. Wrote some wills for clients. And people would ask me questions about bankruptcy, and I said, "Look, I didn't even take a bankruptcy course in law school. I don't have a clue."
Yeah, that's a totally different bailiwick.
Oh, absolutely. And
I
they
mean,
were,
it's like going to your OBGYN and asking them about a foot problem.
there you go. There you go. And recognizing your limitations. Remember Clint Eastwood in what movie
Mhm.
was that? A man's got to know his limitations. And I just thought that was so profound
Mhm.
that you're so far ahead of the game when it is not a weakness when someone comes into your office and says, well, I got arrested for whatever. What do I do? And I say, you're going to call my friend, the criminal attorney who knows what to do. And in the meantime, say nothing till we get him on the phone. And,
Absolutely.
and to know what you don't know, and so that you don't have the fallout of unintended consequences. And for some of you who know, I've talked about this a little bit. I had spinal fusion surgery in July, and I've talked to two people in the last week who said, I've had spinal fusion surgery this week. I'm thinking, oh my gosh, guess what? Me too. And a friend of mine who insisted on, and I'm also a pilot, we've talked about that, who insisted upon always pulling his airplane out of the hangar, which I've done that too. It's work. You're putting a tow bar on. It's got wheels. You get some momentum, but you're pulling an airplane here, and it's
It's not exactly small.
no, and it's not exactly smart when you're 60 years old, when you can call the line guys, pay them $25 to bring the tow motor over and pull your airplane out of the hangar. So
Right.
he had done this one too many times, bent over to tie his shoes, and now he's out of it for months. I mean, he's really out of it.
Right.
And I think unintended consequences because we weren't planning and we weren't thinking and we didn't, hey, it never crossed my mind that doing that
Hmm.
could harm me.
Right.
So
Well,
being intentional, and I guess that's part of being a grown up too.
yeah. And I mean, I've had my fair share of unintended consequences. I mean,
Oh boy, me too.
one of my biggest ones literally was, when I went to college, I figured out that I could eat anything I wanted, however I wanted, whenever I wanted, and that I didn't have to keep exercising as much as I had been in high school. And, I discovered I just didn't give a rat's ass. And I gained a ton of weight, a lot of weight, unintended consequences. I didn't, you know, realize, until I saw the pictures, at my highest weights, it was like, oh my God, and the joint pain and the back pain and the swelling and all that kind of stuff. And I'm lucky I didn't have really any severe consequences, but, definitely unintended consequences because darn, it's hard to lose that weight.
The older we get, right?
Well, and not just the older we get, it's really easy to put it on and not so easy, even if you're 25, to take it off.
Mhm.
Even if, because once you start looking at large numbers, it gets really, really hard to take it off, and it's that unintended consequence of doing that and just not paying attention to what I eat or, eating whatever the kids wanted and might
Or
be mac and
being
cheese for dinner.
intentional about today I will have 3 fruits, today I will have 3 vegetables, I will have 3 proteins, I will have, that kind. Yeah, and without that, it's too easy to, yeah, and
Yeah.
my
And
physician.
sometimes we don't realize how we're going to end up with very much what we don't want because we're not being mindful and intentional about the what we do want and what we're doing and how we're doing it and how we're portraying it.
I
It's that
agree.
unintended side effects or consequences or, things that can happen
Yeah.
in life, in business. I mean, everywhere.
I was talking to someone, older than I am, a relative of mine who is, let me think, 80 or 79, not sure which,
Hmm.
but 79 going on 45. I mean, there is
Hmm.
nothing infirmed about her. Um, Same person she's always been. And she's an extremely fine cook. Um, she's extremely competent. Good schools, good education, uh, very popular, from Queen of the Prom to you name it, she did it. And she was Holly Golightly. She dropped out of Skidmore, went to New York, and started a career. And at 22, was head of personnel for a very large department store in New York. And said, "I'm doing this," and she made it happen. Very intentional, and it has been a real role model for me in my life in her way, fun. And but she said to me, and this was so jarring to me when she said it to me today. She said, I made a decision yesterday to get up early to get some weeding done in the yard before it got too hot. So I set my alarm and I was going to get dressed, and then I didn't, and I wandered downstairs at 9:30 and I didn't get dressed till noon. And I think we're just going to have leftovers for dinner." And I'm listening to her, and she said, "Ever since this virus has hit, all of our discipline has gone out the window."
Hmm.
And I thought about it, and I think about how many days, like right now, I've got curly hair. I haven't straightened my hair. I haven't blown it out. I haven't done my usual stuff. I'm just being, curly hair, getting in and out of the pool. How many days I haven't done that usual effort? And she's right. And how, you might not make the bed because, or we'll just eat a sandwich for dinner. And she's right. And the
Hmm.
unintended consequences of this virus are staggering. And
Hmm.
we have a title company in the law firm, and I was talking to the lawyer in the firm who does all the settlements and all the closings, and he said almost 100%. Now I'm in Pennsylvania. I'm an hour. I'm 55 minutes out of Philadelphia. He said almost 100% of these closings are people from New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut. They're all getting the hell out of Dodge. And in talking to a real estate friend of mine this afternoon who makes a very good living in New York in upper end real
Hmm.
estate. And I don't mean the $30 million co-ops, but I mean nice real estate on the Upper East Side.
Hmm.
Said on average, he has had between 6 and 8 listings a year. He has 100 listings right now. Everybody wants to get out of there.
Hmm.
Apparently, the exodus is in massive numbers. And these are people who are employed. These are people who are paying taxes. And they're saying, look it, I'm working remotely. I don't need to be here anymore.
Yeah.
Why am I paying these taxes? Why, I can't go out of my house at nighttime anymore. It isn't safe. If you call the police, you might not see him for 3 or 4 hours. The bodega has been burned out. I got to
Hmm.
walk 6 or 7 blocks down to, Gristedes or wherever to pay triple the price for the groceries.
Hmm.
Why am I here? And I think, once again, unintended consequences. Did we see this coming?
Hmm.
And I don't know.
Well, I think we're going to see the same thing, a similar exodus out of California, because the real estate prices
Ooh,
have been so high. You
but that's
know,
not new. That's
that's not, no, no, it's not. But all of your tech companies are going to 100% remote for at least another year, if not infinitely. So why would somebody remain in California with, $1 million 2-bedroom house where, anywhere else in the country, half of that will get you a veritable mansion.
and that's the way it is. The city that I live near, I'm 15 minutes out of, in 2011 was the poorest city in the nation. And you could buy a row house in the city for $20,000 and you can move your family into it. And so New York, the Bronx, Yonkers,
Hmm.
Brooklyn came to Reading, Pennsylvania in droves because for $20,000 instead of $450,000,
Hmm.
they could have a house. And if they did own a house, they could buy the 6-bedroom house in the burbs that was the row house in a crappy section of Brooklyn.
Hmm.
So we're seeing, I see Beth says, I have 2 California real estate buyers now. I'd love to hear what else she's got to say about that.
She's in DFW. Yeah. She says they're all coming to DFW. And I'm like, yeah, they're coming to RTP too.
And that makes sense. I mean, those are big tech centers, and I get that. And
Hmm.
the weather in North Carolina, you're in between the north and the south. You can go either way, and you've got an airport, and you got a lot of
Hmm.
positives there. But I see in New York
Hmm.
that the nurses, for example, who went to New York to help out during COVID, um, eh, just as an example, all right, so they're working from May till June in New York. They're being taxed at New York rates, but if they're making money in Pennsylvania, like on, they own an apartment building, or they got taxed at New York rates on their entire income, no matter what it was. And so people are getting very hip to this and saying, why am I in New York paying this when I'm not safe? My neighborhood's on fire. I can't
Mhm.
call a policeman. Everything is getting nuts. And I see, boy, oh boy, nobody thought they were going to wake up and have to make these choices.
Mhm.
And I'm hoping that, should I have to make choices like this someday, that I'm going to make them intentionally, have a
Mhm.
plan. Like, and I'm asking people, and I don't want to know your plan. That's not my point. But if it really hits the fan, if we got Portland being Portland and Seattle being Seattle, and if that comes to your town, do you have a plan? I mean,
Yeah.
do you know where you're going? Do you
Mhm.
know what's in your go bag? Do you have 90 days of medicine? Do you have the paperwork on your animals and their shots and all that stuff? Do you have your medicine, your jewelry, your stuff ready to go, your papers, your insurance, your wills, whatever? And I think that we need to be very intentional about this, because we have seen what one virus, um, maliciously sent, has done to our country. What's the next act? This, we don't need a nuclear bomb. We'll just send them another virus. I mean, what is our plan? And I think that as Americans, we got to think about, we can't just say, oh, well, they'll take care of it. Mm-mm. We got to take care of ourselves and our families. We can't count on people the way we used to. And I'm a real believer in, you get down on your knees and pray, and then you get up and hustle and go do what needs to be done.
Mhm.
So,
Well, and nothing, will trade for preparedness any day. Being prepared. And, Elizabeth Frederick says there's been so much, movement and transition among people, of course, because millions and millions of people have lost their jobs.
mhm,
And, almost every tech company has gone online.
right.
How do you, how do you deal with that? And you have to be really smart in how you're dealing with things and preparing.
James Altucher, who's written a number of books, and they're interesting books, is a New Yorker. And he wrote an article, 5-page article, I think in the Post, I'm not sure, maybe in the New Yorker. It came out this week, and it was, New York is dead and it's not coming back.
Mhm.
And oh, Elizabeth says there can be freedom in it when you plan. That's exactly right, Elizabeth. You have summed up what we're talking about so well, that you cease to be a victim. I mean, there are things here we can't control. We can't control that a virus has landed on our shores, but we can control what we do about it. And like every time I go to Sam's Club, I buy toilet paper and I buy paper towels. That's one thing I can do so that I have plenty. And I have extra dog food and I have extra cat food. Those are things I can control. I've got medicine on hand.
Mhm.
But I think about this and I think, you know, New Yorkers, they're on the cutting edge. I mean, they're hip, they're smart, and this guy was talking about many different levels. There's education and there's culture and there's business. They're talking about, for example, the theater is not going to open until maybe spring of 21, maybe. And I
Mhm.
think, well, what do you do with all those musicians and those restaurants and those hotels and the cocktail lounges you go to afterwards, and it just, the trickle down of all of this. And a lot of that you don't have a choice about, but there are many things here we do have choices about, that if we think and we plan and we're intentional, perhaps we can avoid some of the more unpleasant consequences. Certainly not all. I've been reading a couple of books about electromagnetic pulse and the power grid, and Ted Koppel from Night Nightline. Is that Nightline?
Hmm.
I think that was a show that started in 1979. I used to enjoy watching him. Said this isn't if, it's when. And I think, oh my golly, what would happen if the lights went out for 6 months? What if they went out for a year? And we don't have refrigerators, and what would we do? And I feel very powerless about that. Do you plant a garden and you do the best you can? And that kind of crap keeps you up at night. I can't control that, but I can control, like I said, having enough dog food in my house and enough medicine. There are things that I can do and have. If the lights are out for 2 weeks, I've got books to read. I've got.
Hmm.
I don't know. Am I making sense, Haley?
Totally. I mean, you can only control as much as you can control, right?
Right.
But I mean, there's definitely something to be said for, making sure that you have adequate supplies on hand, whether it's bottled water or
Yeah.
dog food or cat food or whatever it is. And I mean, and we've
Take
seen it.
away the victimhood out of it, you
And
know?
we've seen it here in North Carolina that, it doesn't have anything to do with COVID, right? We get periodically hit by hurricanes.
Hurricanes. Right.
We do. I mean, we get hit by usually one or two good ones a year. And I am not near the coast. I'm 2 hours, give or take from the coast. But the reality of it is that, you know, we do get hit and we lose power, and we have lost power for up to a week at a time.
It's a
You
long
know,
time
mm,
where you're cooking everything out of the freezer on the grill, and, other that or just throwing it out. Well, you're going
right,
to do one or the other. You're inviting the neighbors over for dinner or whatever.
right, and vice versa. And I mean, we did that when Fran hit in '96, and we didn't have power for 9 days. And I mean, you just, you hope for the best. You plan, not necessarily for the worst, but at least for, situations where, okay, I could lose power for a few days. We've had ice storms here in this area where we've lost power for a week.
Yeah,
Um,
me too.
not at my house, but we have had friends who have lost power for a week who end up spending the night at our house or coming over for a hot shower or whatever. And you do what you got to do, but a little bit of planning goes a long way.
It does. And I think
Just having, some candles in the house or some batteries for your flashlights and some bottled water, an extra stash of
mentally
toilet paper.
mentally thinking it through and
Mhm.
not being caught flat-footed and not being a victim. I mean, there's some things you just can't help. But when you think about consequences and measure things out,
Right.
um, it goes a long way.
Mhm.
And
It does. Well, and that's true in business too, right? And Meg says she keeps a large stash of solar lanterns. Meg, you are funny. You are one very funny chick. She makes these.
what are they? Tell me what
They're
I'm.
solar powered lanterns. So they
Okay.
have a little
Okay.
charger in the
I
top, and
see.
when you charge it during the day and you cover the top, it'll like light up, but you can't tell because I've got too much light in here right now. So she makes these. I have three of them, and she jokes about I keep a large stash of solar lanterns. Yeah, you also have a large stash of light up buckets that you can stash beer in. We know.
Good for you.
You know.
You're
It,
gonna have fun in the dark.
mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, she was saying that they have a bucket with a lantern or a LED light that they can put in it. And her husband will throw ice and beer in the bucket.
Good for him.
Yeah.
I have to tell a quick story, and it's going to involve imitating other people, but I have to tell you all something really funny. And I don't have the prop that started all of this, but yesterday I went to Sam's Club, needed some things, went to Target, needed some things, went to the pet store, needed something. Thought I'm going to get all this out of the way and then come home and sleep a little bit and recoup. I can't do too much in a day yet. I'm still pretty tired. And I stopped at, I don't know if you have Wawa in North Carolina, but it's like Sheetz or 7-Eleven. It's gas station and inside is food and drinks. And it's a very friendly place. And I'm not walking very fast. And I'm walking like, what's wrong with her? When you look at me, you say, something's going on with her. And I don't have my handicap thing in the car, but I try to work. Anyway, these two elderly guys, and I'm saying they're elderly because by the looks of them, they were in their mid 80s. These two black gentlemen saw me, and I had on this lime green sweater and these new lime green shoes, and I have this face scarf that I'm using as a mask that looks like a Versace, with the gold chains and the riding crop stuff, that.
So you looked like you were very done up.
I was done up, yeah, because I figure bring the body, the mind will follow. And these two gentlemen saw me coming and they opened the doors for me. And he said, well, shucky ducky, you are just a styling girl. And I said, gentlemen, I'm working it. I'm not feeling my best. I'm working it. He said, look at you in your lime green shoes and your lime green. And he said, in your Versace mask. And I said, fellas, we look like a bunch of high-class bank robbers. I think we ought to blow this stand, go down to the Fulton Bank, rob the bank. We can all retire early. No one will know. I said, you play Morgan Freeman. I'll play Rene Russo. Let's go. And these eyes on these guys are getting bigger and bigger. And right behind me are the two cops coming in for donuts and coffee. And he puts his hand on my shoulder and says, ma'am, do you know anything about conspiracy? he heard me making plans to rob a bank with these two old guys. And I'm thinking, we couldn't have run 10 feet if we had to get away. And these guys were terrified these cops were going to arrest us for planning. Oh my gosh, that was the highlight of my day yesterday. And I laughed so hard and I thought about it and I thought, you just never know who's going to come across your path and I'm going to love it. And he just said, well, shucky ducky, you're looking good. And I thought, well, even if I'm not feeling my best, I'm going to try to be put together because it's going to get me farther than it would if I don't. And so maybe after talking to Aunt Betsy about the discipline thing, maybe that's what got me going. I don't know. But shucky.
That is hilarious. Shucky ducky, huh?
Shucky ducky. I had never heard that in my life. And I couldn't figure out what was wrong with these guys when their eyes got really big because I didn't see the cops behind me. And I'm shuffling in to get my Wawa Coke. Let's see. Here we go. My Wawa Coke. Anyway.
And it has to be from Wawa and it has to be Coke.
It does. It has to be a lemon Coke from Wawa or it just ain't the ticket. So that was my story.
And you're sticking to it?
Oh, I am. I'm still laughing about that.
Oh, that's so funny. Yeah. Isn't it funny how life sometimes throws us these little silly curveballs?
Yeah, just to make you happy. And, somebody who says something kind and makes you laugh or points out something nice and makes your day. And I'm sure we made the cops' day.
Yeah. I was dying laughing last night. This is totally unrelated and totally irrelevant. We had gone to Cheesecake Factory the other night and gotten a couple of cheesecakes to go because by the time, it came around to do dessert, we were stuffed.
You're always stuffed at Cheesecake Factory.
Exactly, right?
Yeah,
and so we got 2 to go and we're down to 1 kid in the house right now, and it's my 17-year-old son, and who has suddenly become quite the little social butterfly with mom and dad, strangely. So last night I had the last little bit of one of the cheesecakes and I offer it to him first. And he's like, no, I'm good. And I think he was just expecting me to eat a spoonful because our family culture, for the most part, is that unless you're down to the last bite, you're really only eating like 1 or 2 spoonfuls, that you're not going to sit there and eat the whole cheesecake at once. So I got a dirty look because I ate like 3 bites at once. And so he looks at me and he goes, well, I'm going to, I was like, well, I offered it to you. And he was like, in a snit. So we went out and he's like, well, when we come back, I'll eat the other one. I'm like, yeah, right. Because he was like, I already ate chocolate mousse. So I know he doesn't usually tend to eat dessert twice because he's pretty disciplined, unlike his mother. And we get back and he makes a beeline for the fridge, grabs the mousse out of the fridge, and he's like playing keep away with me around the kitchen.
You can't have it. It's all mine.
You can't have it. And I really contemplated grabbing that spoon and chasing him around the kitchen with it.
Oh, that's fun. That's fun. So you're down to 1 kid out of 4.
We are down to 1 kid out of 4 right now.
That's a new world.
It is a very strange world. Our house is eerily quiet.
Yeah.
Because the one that's here tends to be pretty quiet. He stays up in his room most of the time, except for at dinner, and doesn't say a whole lot.
Teenage boys.
Yeah. Oh, and he plays video games. He's either doing video games or homework most days, and he's taking 4 AP classes because it's crazy year at school. And he's in AP Stats, AP Physics. He's got 4 of them that are AP classes.
Wow.
Yeah, so he's either studying or he's at school or he's asleep. He's
He's a senior?
He's a senior. Studying for the SATs, doing all the stuff, college applications,
Wow.
It's go time.
Year, nobody's home. Wow.
And next year, nobody's home, right?
Wow. That's 18 years of
more than that.
Yeah.
My oldest will be 23 next year.
Yeah, but wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, we thought we had 5 more years at this point, but apparently the youngest decided he was going to go elsewhere for school.
Oh,
so yes,
interesting. Good for him.
Yep. And Meg says, I bet it's quieter and weird. It is absolutely quieter and really, really weird. And what's really interesting, I don't know about y'all's kids, but my college-age daughter is texting me like 12 times a day and asking me for recipes and stuff right now. And I was on FaceTime with her tonight before this live, which is why I was a little bit late, because she was showing me that her dinner that she had cooked. And I think she was expecting to talk to me, not my husband. And he was like all shocked that she was FaceTiming me and showing me her dinner.
I think that's wonderful. But think about, you're talking about your son, your youngest son has gone away to school. How intentional that was. He said, I want to do this. I want to go to a military school. I want to do this. And I think, wow, to be that young and have a plan. I did not have, you know what? It's a different era.
Well, and I will say that,
it was just different.
Well, and I mean, COVID did somewhat precipitate things as well. I don't know that he would have made the transition this year under normal circumstances. He probably would have stayed home another year, but this was his only option for in-person instruction. And, it was his choice of boarding schools. So, he decided that rather than do virtual school, he wanted to do in person, and this was his choice.
And some people just don't groove on virtual school. It's just not.
And he did it for 6 months. He's good with that. He doesn't need to do it anymore.
Yeah, I don't know that would be my thing, but I'm another generation. It's just not first nature to me.
No, and he's deciding it's not his first nature either. So it's been interesting. He said the first couple of days were a lot of, a lot of PT, a lot of exercise. Normally, I think the first day at school is a bit more, settle in, mom and dad, get you all moved in and everything. But they didn't really have the time or the ability to ease kids in quite the same way this year because of all the social distancing requirements and stuff. Because once the kids were on campus, they had to stay on campus. They couldn't drop their stuff off, start to move into their room, figure out what they're missing, and then go out to lunch and Walmart, which is apparently what the tradition normally is. Everybody be back by like 3 or 4 p.m. So
It's just another world.
it is totally another world, and some of the ceremonies and stuff that we would normally be able to go and attend or, not possible. We can watch it.
Or even shake somebody's hand,
Yeah, there's no handshaking. It's all elbow bumping.
It's just
it's crazy. Yeah, it's an interesting time. So kiddo is, the youngest is off at boarding school, and mom is here working her tail feathers off. Way too many hours to count. And I can admit this on live. Yes, I work way too many hours taking care of my clients, and doing my thing with my business. So, it's good and bad. At least my husband's here to drag me out and make me walk a few times a day.
I think that's lovely.
Yeah, he's very sweet.
I think that's great.
Yeah.
My husband stayed home to take care of me, and we've been.
You have an awesome husband.
Yeah, he's
very sweet.
Oh, he is awesome, and we've talked about the unintended consequences of this virus, which have made us all so close, and how he's gotten to spend time with our animals that he wouldn't normally get to spend, and the puppy, and he's just loving it, and we're sitting outside every day, and just keeping it simple, and choosing things, and it's very bittersweet.
It is, yeah.
One of the happiest summers of my life, and having back surgery, and a world of virus, and at the same time just a great deal of happiness in our family.
Yeah, same here. Well, my husband has been working from home because he works in tech. Those of you that don't know, my husband's a computer programmer, and he works on computer stuff. He's a software engineer. And we actually at one point worked for competitors in exact competitive like products that competed with one another. So it was actually very interesting. We did that for about 3 years. And we were both software engineers in those respective companies. So we couldn't ever talk about work. So we don't talk about work because it's been so ingrained in us for such a long time. But this summer was really kind of magical in a lot of ways, because my oldest has been out of the house in the hospital. And I know you guys are going to be horrified, but my oldest is not a calming influence. So when she's here, it's a very high stress situation because of the psychiatric issues she has. So I had my 3 youngest here from March until last week. And I knew it was my last hurrah with the 3 youngest. And it was really a special time, dinner every night. We were cooking. My youngest daughter is already hitting me up for lots of recipes because I think she got kind of attached to all the food. My older son decided that he really, really, really likes to cook and bake. And for those of you that know me, know I've been making a lot of sourdough cinnamon rolls. What you may not know is that my oldest son has actually been making a lot of the cinnamon rolls. We've been doing it together. So he mixes the cinnamon rolls, and then he makes the cinnamon roll filling for me, and then I roll them out. And he's started learning how, just like in the last week or so, how to roll them out and put them in the pans and get them to hold together. And then he has this whole process that he goes through to make sure that the cinnamon rolls have risen and that they've, and that they're baked, and he does all the glazing of all the cinnamon rolls. So he's baked about 4,000 cinnamon rolls in the last few months.
Oh my word.
And we've raised several $1,000s for the North Carolina Food Bank, which has been really cool. And, and getting to spend that time with him has been kind of magical, because it's unlike any other time that I've gotten to spend with him. And then, I've had like I said, all three of the youngest here, and gotten to spend a lot of really kind of silly family time together.
Yeah, that's kind of what I mean. Out of nowhere, we never thought any of this was going to happen, and
Yeah.
you
And
know,
Elizabeth, those rolls are delicious. They're amazing. It's kind of like Cinnabon, except they're sourdough, and the top is like a sugar glaze as opposed to the cream cheese, but because the sourdough offsets they're really good. I can FedEx you a box.
oh, I would love the recipe. I would love. Oh, it
It's
just.
the King Arthur flour recipe.
Hmm?
It's the King Arthur flour recipe on their website.
All right, all right.
It's totally like silly, but it's, it's one of those things where it's a relatively easy recipe. I've seen people screw it up, but it's once you get the dough going and you figure out how to get the consistency of the dough right, which varies depending on the flour that you use. But once if you have any experience making bread, it's pretty easy.
I don't. I don't.
Yeah.
No.
I've baked a lot of bread in my life.
No, I have not.
So
The unintended consequences, many of which have been lovely, and it's
mm-hmm.
no rain, no rainbows, right?
Yeah, well, it's been nice. I mean, I've gotten to spend a lot of time with my husband in a way that we have not spent time together. Since our kids were much, much younger, or even before we had kids. So it's been many, many eons since we spent this much time together, and gotten to go walking every day and do stuff.
Because I think that times like these are going to make or break relationships.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you see the message from Beth? She says those sourdough cinnamon rolls are amazing. She even did a Facebook Live opening the FedEx box and eating one. So people ask me all the time, do you ship? And they think they're being funny. And I'm like, yeah, I ship them. It's about $60 to ship a box overnight.
Wow.
I mean, it's not inexpensive, but because it's by weight and it's overnight, so it's going to be expensive, but it's not like unheard of for me to ship a box to somebody.
Oh my gosh.
And we do it in 9x13 pan, the metal pan, and we wrap it in plastic wrap after we bake it, and then we ship them out of here.
So maybe next week we're going to talk more about counting our blessings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This
year's been a huge, it's been a huge blessing for me, and a huge amount of work. Oh my gosh, and I've just been so grateful for some of the friendships I've made this year. I'm looking down the list of comments, Elizabeth and Meg and Dr. Flo and, Beth and everybody who's been commenting tonight. It's just been amazing how many people I've really connected with this year in a way that I hadn't had a chance to do before.
Isn't that wonderful? Now I've seen a couple of Elizabeth's comments, but I haven't seen anything else. We're on a different platform, and previously I could see
they're in the comments on the right. I think if you're looking at the
thing. Yeah, I'm in. Duh, and you can see who is in this business and who isn't. I was on the private chat side, and in the same, it's the opposite of what we had from before. So, oh my gosh, well, I'm going to read all of your comments, and this is so nice. It is so lovely to see everybody and to be doing this, and
it is so much fun, isn't it?
It is, and I see so many familiar names, and I see Meg Campbell saying, oh my gosh, my self-discipline is shot in the butt. I'm working on it though. My routine is all jumbled up, and it's like, oh my gosh, yes, everything.
I think everybody's routines are upside down and backwards. Yeah. If I didn't make myself get up every morning at 8:30 or 9 o'clock and get up, take a shower, get dressed, put on makeup, y'all, I'm not actually like dressed up. It's only for the waist up. And this is how I always am, unless I'm client facing and meeting somebody, I'm wearing shorts. or jeans. And well, if I'm meeting a client, I'm still wearing jeans. So this is not unusual for me, but it's a lot of fun.
Well, we're going to make the best of it, and let's hope our world settles down and
Mm-hmm.
let there be peace on earth.
Yeah, I totally agree.
So,
Yeah. Thank you guys so much. This has been
thanks.
delightful.
Oh, it has.
Delightful. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys next week with
Yeah.
Victoria, and I'll see you guys on Facebook Live. Yeah. She says, it is lovely to spend time together. I have a serious block schedule to help me. Yeah. Since adding homeschooling, I, really feel for moms who are managing homeschooling
And
and
work.
remote learning and trying to do anything resembling having a life.
Oh my word. I don't know
How can you even begin to have a life?
And I don't know if you don't have any respite, how do you have patience? How do you have sanity? How do you have where's the breaking point?
Mm-mm.
So I have a suggestion next week that we all bring a drink, we all bring an hors d'oeuvre, and we talk over drinks and hors d'oeuvres. Mine, folks, it's going to be a Wawa Coke, but we could all do this at 8 o'clock and talk about fun stuff. We'll come up with a topic and maybe gratitude and just fun stories. And this is
Yeah,
really
we'll talk
lovely.
about gratitude next week. Let's do it.
I'd like that.
Thank you guys.